Welcome back to Rooted Reflections, Episode 4 Connection Before Correction. Hi, friends. I'm Tammy with Resilient Roots Foundation. And over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about behavior being more than what we see on the surface and how children borrow our calm when life feels overwhelming. Today, I want to talk about one of the phrases people ask me about the most: connection before correction. At first glance, it can sound like we're choosing connection instead of correction, but that's not what it means at all. For some people, that phrase can feel very uncomfortable. Many people hear this phrase and assume it means being soft on children, avoiding consequences, or letting behavior slide. It can sound like we're saying children shouldn't be corrected, that boundaries don't matter. The consequences should just disappear. But that's not what connection before correction means. In fact, correction absolutely matters. That's how we learn right from wrong. Children need guidance. They need boundaries. They need adults who help them learn skills they don't yet have. The question isn't whether correction happens. The question is when and how it happens. I recently met a first grader who would melt your heart with their smile, but had a really hard time when things didn't go the way they wanted. I'm sure you can relate to that. I'm sure you know many children, many adults, maybe yourself sometimes, who just can't handle when the world isn't going their way. I mean, if I had it my way, the world would always go my way, right? One afternoon, recess was over and everyone was lining up to go inside. Every single child on that playground, 4 classes, all came running when the bell rang, except one. They looked at me and said, "No, you can't make me," and ran across the playground. Keep in mind, this playground was huge. I will continue to share more about this little person as we go. Before we come back to my first grader friend, let's talk about what connection really means. When people hear the phrase connection before correction, they often think it means spending quality time together, giving hugs, or making sure children feel heard. Those things really matter. A child's happiness is important. It matters. But that's not really what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the everyday moments, the frustration, the disappointment, the meltdowns, the arguments, the moment when behavior feels the hardest. Because connection isn't about making children happy. It's about helping their nervous system feel safe enough to learn in those moments of frustration and meltdowns. We'll talk more about the word safe in a few minutes. But for now, let me show you what that looked like on the playground that day. What I hadn't shared yet is that I was a substitute teacher who had just signed on to spend a month or so in this classroom. I was on the playground with 4 other first grade teachers and assistants, and all eyes were on me of what I was going to do next. And if you remember, my friend said that they were not coming in. And at that moment, I had a choice. I could turn it into a power struggle, or I could become the calm they needed. I asked the other teacher to take the rest of the class inside while I stayed with my friend. My job wasn't to win this battle. My job was to help my friend get back to a place where they could make a better choice. I mean, sometimes winning the battle is the easy part. I could have started handing out consequences. But what would happen the next time that child didn't want to leave the playground? Think about those moments when a child is screaming, hitting, refusing, melting down, or just completely shutting down, right? Our instinct is often just to jump straight to correction. We explain, remind, lecture, and oh yes, we start handing out punishments. The problem is that many children simply can't access those lessons when their nervous system is overloaded. When a child feels threatened, frustrated, embarrassed, scared, or completely flooded with emotion, their brain shifts into something called survival mode. Their body becomes focused on protection instead of learning. Connection helps bring them back. A calm voice, a reassuring presence, a moment of understanding. An adult who can stay regulated when they cannot. Connection communicates something powerful to a child's nervous system. My friend on the playground started yelling at me. A lot, actually. They would walk up, walk away, walk around me, stand there, staring at me. They said some very unkind things. I didn't argue. I didn't match their emotion. I simply acknowledged that they were mad and did not want to go inside. I reminded them it was time to go inside and let the child know I'd talk with them when one, they were using kind words and a calm body. And then I sat on the sidewalk and said, I know that you'll be ready to use your words when you're standing at our lineup spot. What I was really communicating in those moments had very little to do with my words. It had a lot more to do with my calm and what I was saying to their nervous system. Connection communicates. You're not alone. I'm here. We're going to get through this together. And underneath all of those messages is one more. You are safe. As children begin to feel safe, the thinking part of their brain starts coming back online. That's when teaching becomes possible. That's when correction begins to make sense. That doesn't mean we ignore the behavior. It doesn't mean we remove boundaries. It doesn't mean there aren't consequences. It simply means we recognize that before children can do better, many of them need help feeling safe enough to access the skills they may already have. But that raises an important question. If connection helps children feel safe enough to learn, what does safe actually mean? When I say children need to feel safe, I think it's important to explain what I mean. Most of us hear the word safe and think about physical danger, a busy road, a hot stove, a dangerous animal. Those are real threats, right? But our nervous systems don't only respond to real danger. They also respond to perceived danger. Perceived danger is when the brain believes something is threatening, even if it isn't actually dangerous. For a child that might be feeling embarrassed in front of classmates, being overwhelmed by a noisy classroom, trying something that feels really hard. Those situations aren't dangerous in the way we usually think about danger, but the nervous system can still react as if they are. Can you guess what my friend's perceived danger was that day? If you remember, I shared that I understood my friends' upset, and I would know they were ready to go inside when they were using a calm voice, kind words, and a calm body, and they were on our lineup spot. About 10 minutes later, after staying close and continuing to share, my cat just walked by me and it completely distracted my thought. But after staying close and continuing to share, I was then I'm sorry, my cat is now up on the counter and trying to knock the pizza box from last night off the stove. Anyway, I continued to share that I would know they were ready when they were standing on our lineup spot. After about 10 minutes, they quietly walked over to the line, and we took a few deep breaths together, and then we talked about their upset. I asked them, did those unkind words change the fact that we needed to go inside? No. Did they give you more recess time? No. Then I asked, what can we do next time? And we came up with a plan of what they could say next time they were upset. And then we walked into class together, where the child simply joined what everyone else was already doing. The students' perceived danger could have been a few different things: a lack of control, uncertainty about what was coming next in the classroom, or I believe it might have been disappointment. They weren't ready for the fun to end, and that emotion became big enough that their survival brain took over. I think this is one of the biggest shifts many of us have to make, understanding that a child's brain sees danger differently than we do sometimes. A child's brain can see danger differently than we do sometimes. I know children need to feel safe before they can think. That changes everything. Once we understand perceived danger, those big behaviors begin to make a lot more sense. You may have heard people talk about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Those are protective responses that all of our nervous systems have. Every one of us, every person that walks this planet has these same responses. Our nervous systems all work the same way. It's what we learn, the skills that we have, that helps us decide what to do in those moments. Fight may look like yelling, hitting, arguing, or refusing. Flight may look like running away, avoiding, hiding, or leaving the situation. Freeze may look like shutting down, staring into space, or being unable to respond. Fawn may look like immediately trying to please everyone around you, maybe giving in pretty easily in situations, becoming overly focused on keeping everyone around them, keeping others happy, even if they're not secretly happy. These aren't carefully planned choices. They're protective responses. The brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's keeping the child safe. The challenge is that while the brain is busy protecting, it has less energy available for learning. That's why correction often doesn't work in those moments. Not because children don't care, not because they're choosing to be difficult, but because the part of their brain needed for learning isn't fully available yet. I truly, truly believe most children do well when they can. And when they can't, they need support. They need new skills. Keep in mind that a person's brain is not fully developed until their mid-20s, and yet we expect children to pull upon skills that our brains are not even fully developed yet to make happen. Anyway, before correction, support means helping them regulate so they can learn. Correction is still important, but it works best after the brain feels safe enough to receive it. Here's the amazing part. Every time we help a child regulate, we're doing much more than getting through a difficult moment. We're helping build the pathways their brain will use the next time life feels hard. Today they borrow our calm. Tomorrow they begin finding it themselves. That's how co-regulation becomes self-regulation. The calm we give today becomes the calm they carry tomorrow. And here's how I know it matters. Let me tell you what happened next with my friend. A few weeks later, my friend struggled again. This time, they wanted to be in the front of the line, so they skipped ahead. I calmly reminded them where their place was. The rest of the line continued. However, my friend had to start again. After a couple of reminders, they were able to do just that without their upset taking over. Later that week, it happened again. One reminder was enough this time. The behavior didn't change overnight. And if it happened again, I could have been back at the beginning where I was sitting in the hallway or sitting on the playground, waiting 10 minutes. But little by little, their ability to regulate is starting to grow. Most of the time when children have the skills and their nervous system is calm enough to access those skills, they do well. That's why connection matters. That friend didn't need someone to overpower them. They needed someone to outlast the storm without becoming part of it. Every time we choose connection before correction, we aren't just getting through that moment. We were teaching their brain how to find calm the next time. So as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with 2 questions to carry into your week. Think about the last time a child struggled with their behavior. Did you focus first on stopping the behavior or on understanding what the child might have needed in that moment? This week, before you correct behavior, pause and ask yourself, is this child able to learn right now? Or do they first need my help finding their calm? Remember that correction teaches children what to do, but connection first creates the conditions that make learning possible. Connection isn't about making children happy. It's about helping their nervous system feel safe enough to learn. My hope is that together we can begin looking through a different lens at children's behavior, emotions, and everyday struggles. Because when we understand what behavior really is, we stop seeing problems to fix and start seeing skills needed. And sometimes that small changes everything. Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface and remembering that every feeling has a story worth understanding. Children learn regulation by experiencing regulation. Sometimes the greatest gift we give a child isn't fixing the feeling, but helping them understand it. Connection isn't about making children happy. It's about helping their nervous systems feel safe enough to learn. Rooted Reflections, looking through a different lens at children's behavior, emotions, and everyday struggles. If you liked what you heard today, please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. Help me reach others. Don't forget to go back and listen to episodes 1 through 3. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.